Salama. I'm here again with a very interesting topic. Osiris and the presidential inauguration. What exactly does that mean? What is the inauguration? So I'm going to start by sharing something that I discovered. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to impress my thoughts, my opinions, my theories, or anything like that. I just want you to hear what I'm about to bring. And you make your own conclusions. So please, don't start sending me messages about what you believe or don't believe. Not to be offensive. But this is something that I think that is intended only for the ears and eyes that are open. But one thing I can tell you for sure, this is real. So let's get started. The presidential inauguration and Osiris. In the pantheon of ancient Egyptian gods, there was a few stories that are as compelling and enduring as that of Osiris and Isis. I would assume most of you are familiar with this, what they say is mythical. Let me share something with you. There is nothing mythical about this. In fact, everything that we were taught coming up in school, early years, about mythology was all lies. We were made to believe that these things were just myth, made up stories, when they were actually true. And this would probably explain why we find it hard to believe some of the things that we are seeing today with our own eyes. Many of us writing them off as coincidences. I don't know the word for what I'm trying to say, but to make it clear, they want us to believe or have created the atmosphere that convinces us that these stories are just fairy tales. Their tale is one of love, betrayal, death. Now I'm reading this so I can give you a baseline. As I get through this, I'm going to show you why I believe what I think and understand about the inauguration. Their tale is one of love, betrayal, and death, and resurrection, encapsulating the eternal struggle between good and evil. This myth has been passed down through generations, carving its place in the annals of Egyptian mythology. That's what they want you to believe. And offering insights into the beliefs and values of this ancient civilization. Osiris, the god of the afterlife, the underworld, and the dead, was also revered as a symbol of rebirth and regeneration. He was the firstborn son of the earth god Geb and the sky goddess Nut. Osiris married his sister Isis, the goddess of magic, fertility, and motherhood, who was deeply devoted to him. Osiris was known for his benevolence and wisdom. Now don't be misconstrued about what I'm reading, because this is going to make Osiris sound like the good one. All right? But in actuality, in all truth, there was nothing good about Osiris, especially if he was worshipped by the Egyptians. That should tell its own story. Now, Osiris's brother Seth, the god of chaos, violence, and storms, was envious of Osiris's success and popularity. Consumed by jealousy, Seth devised a sinister plan to usurp the throne. He crafted a magnificent chest, intricately designed to fit Osiris's body perfectly. During a grand feast, Seth presented the chest as a gift, promising to give to whomever could fit inside of it. When Osiris lay down in the chest, Seth and his accomplices slammed the lid shut, sealing Osiris inside. They cast the chest into the Nile River, leaving Osiris to drown. Devastated by the loss of her husband, Isis embarked on a relentless search to find Osiris's body. Her journey was fraught and peril and challenges, but her unwavering love and determination guided her through it. With the help of her sister Nephthys and the god Anubis, Isis discovered the chest containing Osiris's body in the marshes of the Nile Delta. She brought the body back to Egypt. Notice this is happening in Egypt. And used her magical powers to temporarily resurrect Osiris, enabling them to conceive a son, Horus. Y'all, this is not myth. These things happen. And that is the problem with most of us today, is we're conditioned to believe that these are fairy tales and myths, and that's what they want you to do. That's how they want you to think. Because if you don't recognize the truth of any story, then you completely miss the point, along with everything else. However, Seth's treachery did not end there. Upon discovering that Osiris had been found and resurrected, he seized the body, dismembering it into 14 pieces and scattering them across Egypt. Excuse me. Once again, Isis set out to retrieve the fragments of her husband's body. With the assistance of Nephthys, Anubis, and other deities, Isis recovered and reassembled all the pieces except for one, which had been swallowed by a fish. Despite this, Isis used her magic to restore Osiris, who then became the ruler of the underworld. Now, how can you consider Osiris being good when he is clearly the ruler of the underworld? The birth of Horus, the falcon-headed god, marked a new chapter in the saga of Osiris and Isis. Horus grew up to challenge Seth for the throne of Egypt, seeking to avenge his father's death. The conflict between Horus and Seth was fierce and protracted, symbolizing the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Ultimately, Horus emerged victorious, restoring balance and justice to the land. He became the rightful king of Egypt, while Osiris continued to reign over the afterlife, guiding the souls of the deceased. The story of Osiris and Isis is more than just a myth. It is a reflection of the ancient Egyptians' belief about afterlife and death. About life, death, and the afterlife. Their tale embodies themes of love, loyalty, and the triumph of good over evil. The myth also highlights the significance of resurrection and renewal, which were central to Egyptian religious practices, and their understanding of the natural world. The annual flooding of the Nile, which brought fertility and prosperity to Egypt, was seen as a manifestation of Osiris's power. Temples were erected, y'all remember this, temples were erected in honor of Osiris and Isis. I'm going to highlight this because we're going to come back to this later on. These temples. We're going to come back and visit that to make my point. And their worship persisted for centuries. Believe it or not, it has not ended. It's still happening today. I'm going to show you a little bit later. Influencing various aspects of Egyptian culture and spirituality. The story of Osiris and Isis remains one of the most captivating and enduring legends of ancient Egypt. Their saga of love, betrayal, and resurrection continues to inspire and fascinate people around the world as symbols of resilience and devotion. Osiris and Isis remind us of the enduring power of love and the eternal cycle of life and death. In the grand tapestry of mythology, their story stands as a testament to the rich and profound legacy of ancient Egyptian civilization. Now, a long time ago, the god Osiris came to Egypt to rule as king. He brought the Egyptian people new laws and taught them how to farm well and live peacefully in their villages. Osiris was a very wise and powerful king and was loved and respected by the Egyptian people. Unfortunately, his brother Seth was very jealous of his brother's power in Egypt and began to form a plan to kill Osiris and take over his throne. Late one night, Seth tiptoed into Osiris's bedroom. Careful not to wake up Osiris or his queen, the goddess Isis, Seth measured Osiris's body from top to bottom and from side to side. The next morning, Seth took the measurements to a carpenter who made a beautiful wooden chest decorated with bright paint and sheets of gold. That night, Seth threw a huge party and invited Osiris as the guest of honor. The night was spent feasting, singing, dancing, and playing games. For the final game, Seth brought out the huge wooden chest. He announced that the first person to fit perfectly into the chest would be allowed to keep it. One by one, each of Seth's friends climbed into the chest. Unsurprisingly, no one was able to fit into the chest, which was made perfectly for Osiris. This was a plan. Finally, Seth and his friends convinced Osiris to try his luck with the chest. Osiris stepped into the chest and lay down. The chest fit him perfectly, just as Seth, his brother, had planned. Remember, Seth measured him from top to bottom and from side to side, making sure that he was the only one that could fit into that chest. Just as Osiris lay down, Seth slammed the lid and sealed it shut. Seth and his friends took the chest down to the Nile River and dumped it in, knowing that Osiris would never be able to survive. When Osiris heard the news of her husband, when Isis heard the news of her husband's death, she was extremely upset. She rushed to the riverbank and after several days of searching, found the wooden chest. Isis opened it and removed the dead body of her beloved Osiris. Crying, Isis hid Osiris's body in the river grass. She didn't want Seth to find Osiris's corpse because she could perform the proper rituals remember this word, that would allow him to pass into the afterlife. Late that night, Seth returned to the Nile to make sure Osiris's body had washed away. The chest was nowhere to be found, but after searching the riverbank grass, he found the body of his late brother. Furious, Seth cut Osiris's body into 14 pieces. He cut the body into 14 pieces. This is going to be very significant. This is going to paint the picture of the inauguration. So pay really very close attention. To make sure that the body was never found again, he hurled the pieces all over Egypt. The next morning, Isis returned to the river with her sister, Nephthys, and her friends to perform the necessary rituals, only to find Osiris's body gone. Isis transformed into a huge bird and flew high over Egypt. Using her sharp vision, she was able to find all the pieces of the body to put Osiris back together. With the help of Nephthys, Thoth, and Anubis, Isis performed a great act of magic. Very carefully, they began to sew Osiris's body back together. They worked together night after night. When the body was whole once again, they wrapped it head to toe in strips of linen, creating a mummy. And get this, on the night of the full moon, which would have been the middle of the month, Isis used powerful magic to bring her husband back to life. Y'all excuse my stupid dog barking. Zeke, shut up! Osiris embraced Isis and thanked her sister and her friends. He told them he would not be able to stay in the world of the living. He explained that having died, he needed to travel to the world of the dead, where he would become the king of the afterlife. Now remember, our Father, our Creator, is not the God of the dead, right? Okay, so this should tell you something about Osiris. Before he left, Osiris told Isis not to worry. He told her that she would soon give birth to a son, Horus, who would defeat Seth and become a great protector of the Egyptian people. By taking back the throne from Seth, Horus would restore order and peace to the universe. When Horus was born, he was hidden away and kept safe from his evil uncle Seth. Does that not sound like Moses? Let's continue. When he became of age, Horus finally confronted Seth, and they violently fought. During the fight, Horus' left eye was poked out, but magically came to life. Later on, the Wadjet, or Eye of Horus, became a powerful symbol to promote healing. The Eye of Horus. Do y'all remember the dollar bill where there's an eye in the capstone of the pyramid? The one eye? Later on, the Wadjet, or Eye of Horus, became a powerful symbol to promote healing. This eye, you see it on every $1 bill. Now, I want you to tell me something. I want you to think. If this was a myth, why would your government put this on the dollar bill? Symbols Symbols mean everything to these people. Although Horus emerged victorious, there was still a large question of who legally had power over the throne. Seth believed that as Osiris's brother, he was the rightful ruler, but Horus argued that he should be proclaimed king since he was Osiris's legitimate heir. Ultimately, it was decided that Horus would rule on earth as king, and Seth was banished forever. Osiris played a double role. He was both a god of fertility and the embodiment of the dead and resurrected king. This dual role was combined with the Egyptian concept of divine kingship. The king at death became Osiris. This is very important. Keep this in the back of your mind because we're going to look at the benefits of this later on. The king at death became Osiris. Though the living king was identified with Horus, a god of the sky, a god of the sky. The rising of Osiris. Seth, the brother of Osiris, was very jealous of Osiris. We just went over this. And when the moment presented itself, he murdered Osiris, and then he cut him up into 14 pieces. Isis collects 13 pieces of Osiris and fashions from them to form a more perfect union. Y'all pay attention. I'm finna show you something here. I gotta highlight this. Let me read that again. Isis collects 13 pieces of Osiris and fashions from them to form a more perfect union. This should sound very familiar. Check this out. Found in the preamble of the Constitution. This phrase that I just read to you is not new. It goes all the way back to what is taught to us as mythology. But this proves otherwise. This phrase appears at the very beginning of the Constitution, setting the overall tone and purpose of the document in order to form a more perfect union. Is the opening phrase of the preamble of the United States Constitution, supposedly signifying the intention to create a better and more unified nation through the establishment of this governing document. Essentially, it means the Constitution was designed to prove upon the existing union between the states by creating a stronger central government. This is the framework of the United States' 13 colonies. Anybody that had history in school or is familiar with the 13 colonies to form a more perfect union. Oh, it's going to get better. This was and is Egyptian magic, which we, as the tribe or from the tribe of Israel, was told, don't touch this. No magic, no worshiping of other gods. It's not a coincidence that they brought together 13 colonies to perform or to form this perfect union. It was by design. Now Osiris was cut up into 14 pieces by his brother Seth. Isis only found 13 pieces. So which piece was missing? The genitals. Yes, the genitals. So they set up a ritual, which is where the obelisk came in. Now y'all know what the obelisk is. Let me get out here for a second. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. Let's see. Just 1 second. One second. All right. Here is an obelisk. This is what it looks like. All right. Just to make sure that you are understanding when I say obelisk, that you understand what it is. All right. You see this everywhere. In just about every developed country, you see this. All right. So they set up a ritual, which is where the obelisk came in, and the obelisk represents Osiris's 14th piece, the genitals. The genitals that were missing from Osiris's body. So the obelisk is the phallus symbol. You can find this symbol in the Vatican, ancient Egypt, Persia, Turkey, Ethiopia, Brazil, Mexico, Inglaterra, France, Austria, España, Italy, Greece, Portugal, Argentina, Canada, Uruguay, Venezuela, Colombia, Chile, Dominicana, Suecia, Russia, Israel, Alemania, China, and many more places across the globe. Ain't that something? It's even found in the cemeteries, Masonic lodges. It represents the male organ of Osiris. Have y'all ever wondered the point of the obelisk that stands at the center of Washington, D.C.? Most of us probably believed that this was a symbol representing something good for the country of the United States. I know I did for a long time. I did not even question what that monument stood for. I just accepted it as decoration, something that was set up to represent the people of a certain country. That's what I thought. And I'm pretty sure the majority of people, if they ever even thought about it, probably thought the same thing. And it's understandable. All right? So it's in many more places across the globe. It's even found in the cemeteries, y'all. Masonic lodges, which is a huge red flag. It represents the male organ of Osiris. They believe by setting up this ritual, which is a recreation of the exact same ritual originally that was performed by Osiris and Isis. This ritual has been practiced since the first president of the United States was elected to office. We're going to get into that too. I hope I don't forget some of the points that I wanted to bring out, because this is extremely important. It's so important that you know what's going on right up under your nose. In fact, this video is mostly about what is really happening during the inauguration. What does it really symbolize and represent? This ritual is performed between the Washington Monument and the Dome of Isis. Let me highlight this right here because I want to scroll down and I want to show you something. Now remember, this ritual, the ritual is performed between a Washington Monument and the Dome of Isis. Let me show you what that is. Okay, this is the dome. Supposedly, it's called the Capitol. Okay, it's called the Capitol. But in reality, what they don't tell you and don't want you to know is that this represents the Dome of Isis. That's right. That's what this truly represents. It is not considered a capital by definition that serves the people under righteousness. This is a representation of the Dome of Isis. So, back to the ritual is performed between the Washington Monument. All right, let's see what the Washington Monument is. Right here. So this ritual takes place between the Dome of Isis. I'm going to use the legitimate term, which it really is, the Dome of Isis, which we know as the Capitol, and the Washington Monument. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's significant. That is the Washington Monument. So let me read that one more time. The ritual is performed between the Washington Monument and the Dome of the Capitol, or Isis. We know it as the Capitol. The ritual must, listen, this ritual must be performed, and I'm going to tell you why. Just hang on. This ritual must be performed between a dome and an obelisk in the courtyard. Y'all, plant that deep into your memory because we're going to find out why they do this. The ritual must be, not should be, it must be. Then there's a reason. It must be performed between a dome and an obelisk, between the Dome of Isis and the genitals of Osiris. By creating this arrangement, it created a powerful generator. That's right, a literal generator, especially for this event. This event I'm speaking about is the inauguration. The idea of this ritual is that it's supposed to bring up the seed of Osiris. I better highlight that. Okay? Y'all, this is no joke. This is real. In spite of how many people have this skeptical mindset, it doesn't matter to me if you see what I see or believe what I believe. I'm bringing you the facts. I've been working on this for a while. And I'm still working on it. There's a whole lot more to this. This is not it right here. If I did everything that I found so far, I would never be finished with this. All right? The idea of this ritual is that it's supposed to bring up the seed of Osiris. The seed of Osiris is going to come up out of the phallus symbol, the obelisk, and the Washington Monument. The seed of Osiris is supposed to take over. Now, this is the inauguration, y'all. Listen. Y'all pay attention, please. This seed of Osiris is supposed to take over the president's spirit, which the claim is that he will become the so-called Antichrist. In ancient Egypt is the exact ritual that the Pharaoh would enter in as a man and come out as a god. This is very significant. The ancient Egyptians believed that the Pharaoh was the actual embodiment of Osiris. And they are still doing this today, y'all. This is what the inauguration is all about. I'm going to show you. They're still doing this today. That inauguration, that's the ritual. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how it works. The presidential inauguration is, in fact, the exact same ritual from ancient, historical, documented facts that they want you to believe is mythology. This inauguration is actually the ritual of calling Osiris up out of the underworld. They even claim to have the original language that was spoken in the ancient days, and I believe that's a fact. Every single president who has ever been inaugurated to office from the beginning of the founding of the United States history to this very day has stood in the exact same location between the dome of Isis and the obelisk. Every single one, and I'm going to explain why. Between the dome of Isis and this building called the Washington Herodome. Let me show you what the Herodome is. I'll do this so I don't forget where I was. Let's take a look at the Herodome. This is the Herodome. There are 13 statues in this building with a representation of the 13 colonies. Can y'all see how we've been so bamboozled? That's the Washington Herodome. So far, none of the rituals have stuck. Let me explain what I mean. When they do the presidential inauguration, the point is that this is what's supposed to happen. The building that I just showed you, the Washington Herodome, the obelisk, and the dome of Isis. In that Herodome building are a group of men, sorcerers. They are conducting a ritual at the very moment of the inauguration. The reason for this is that if this is the man that they've been waiting for, then this ritual will stick. This man, this president, during his inauguration will become this long-awaited ruler from another dimension, or as most of us call it, Satan, Lucifer, or the demonic Antichrist, whatever you want to call it. You get my point. If this man that is going through the inauguration is the chosen vessel for this Antichrist, this ritual will stick. Now, so far, It has never stuck. And this is why they continue to repeat it every election. Every single election, it's repeated. Because they're waiting on somebody. They're waiting on the one world leader. So far, none of the rituals have stuck. This is why they continue. They will not stop until their long-awaited man shows up. While the inauguration is taking place, there are special men. These men are in this Herodome building, partaking in the ritual at the very moment of the inauguration. After this, you will see, you will never look at the inauguration the same. Now, this is not supposed to take effect during the inauguration, but sometime later. In other words, you won't see any benefits or results from this. Let's say, for example, let's say that Trump going into office, and today in Africa is Monday, so this is the day of the inauguration. Let's just say, for example, Trump is the one they've been waiting on. Let me tell you what's going to happen. He's going to go into office, and at some point, he's going to die. He's going to die, and he's going to be resurrected. Now, when the people see that, y'all can imagine the response of people, most of them anyway. But there's going to be a select few people that ain't going to buy into this because they know what it is. But I'm just saying, for example, if Trump is the one they've been waiting on, this is what's going to happen. He's going to die, and he's going to be resurrected. So you won't see the immediate effect of the ritual taking effect on this newly elected president. Now I want y'all to take a look at this building. Do y'all see Rome? So far, doing my research, all I find is Rome and Egypt. I wonder, why is that? What is that telling us? Many buildings in Washington, D.C. are inspired by ancient Roman architecture, including the United States Capitol building or the Dome of Isis. I asked the question, did Washington, D.C. used to be called Rome? And check out what I found. In 1663, a man named Francis Bishop acquired about 400 acres southeast of Georgetown in what was much later to become Washington, D.C. It was farmland. Bishop was fond of Italy, and decided to name the estate Rome in honor of the city. This was not a town or a settlement. Look at the Dome of Isis, y'all, that we've always thought it was an innocent White House. It's where the president sit. We had no idea why this building was built in the first place. It certainly wasn't for the reason they told us. As we can see, we should be able to see what's happening. This is happening right now, y'all, today. Today. The obelisk. This is representing Osiris's penis. Now, the pyramid in Vegas. Why am I showing you this? Remember when I just said, doing my research, everything that popped up was always Rome and Egypt? There is some, I don't have the answer to that just yet, but everything is pointing to Rome and Egypt. It's almost as if somehow they were the same people, or at least collaborators. I don't have the full answer to that yet, but I'm working on it. Oh, and by the way, this is in Vegas. I've seen this. I've seen a few other pyramids. One in Dallas on the way to Fort Worth, just on the right side of the expressway. They built this pyramid. I believe it was in, I think 2000. I don't remember when it was that I was going to Fort Worth, and they were constructing it at the time. They hadn't finished it. And then there's another one when you're going through Arkansas, headed toward Memphis. There's another one on the left side, and I saw that one. I saw that one being built, and I saw it when it was finished. It also has a sphinx. Do y'all see my point? Something big, very big, has been going on for centuries right up under our nose, and we missed it. Now, this one is also in Vegas. I just took a better shot. Now, check this out. This building, remember this building? This is the building called the Herodom. And it has the 13 statues of the Capitol building. I'm sorry. It holds the 13 statues, which represents 13 colonies. All of these buildings, y'all, look at this. This looks like Roman architecture. All of these buildings are built under the influence of Rome. Why, if you were not Rome, why would you find it necessary to repeat the same exact architecture? Why not have your own representation of your ideas or your claim to heritage? Why? Why would you use somebody else's? Maybe because you are Rome? This is the 13 statues inside of the Herodom building. Remember the incident of the Babylon working? Have y'all ever heard of that? This was a ritual performed by Jack Parson. His initials were JPL. On paper, it said Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but by claim of documents, it was Jack Parsons Laboratories. Anyway, it was called the Babylon Working. Now, this is where it starts to reveal itself. But I got to tell you a little bit of the history of this ritual called the Babylon Working. I might forget a few things, y'all. I sure hope I don't, because this is so important. But I'm going to do my best. Some of you may be able to put pieces together that I might miss. But anyway, listen close. The Babylon Working was a series, not one little incident. It was a series of rituals performed by Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard in 1946. The ritual was intended to summon an incarnation of Babylon, specifically the whore of Babylon, the supreme goddess in Aleister Crowley's pantheon. Y'all know who Aleister Crowley is, right? If you don't, look him up. He plays into this just as much as every other figure that I've mentioned. The Babylon Working is considered one of the most controversial events in Hubbard's pre-Scientology day. The experimental ritual attempted actually worked. It actually worked. Now, they were in the desert. I think it was in Los Alamos, which is close by El Paso, Texas. I used to live in that region. This was in the desert of Los Alamos. And I don't remember how many times they attempted, and the military was aware of it. They were aware of what was being done. Remember, because Parsons was the progenitor of the rocket era. There was no rockets before Jack Parsons. Remember that? There was no rockets. And he wasn't supposed to have been a rocket scientist, but yet he brought the state of America, the country of America, rockets. They brought something through during this ritual. And from my understanding, there was a child conceived by the whore of Babylon. Now, I don't have the information in front of me right now, and I've been looking for it because I found this a year ago, and I really wished I had printed it out or saved it somewhere, and I didn't do that. But I remember reading about this ritual, and I remember there was some high up military personnel that noticed changes in the earth and the heavens. And he was aware of what was going on in the desert because he asked Jack Parsons, "Did you do this?" And Parsons says, "I think so." This is the kind of thing very few people ever get to hear about. The peculiar street designs in Washington, D.C. is also testimony of who is governing this country and many other countries in the world. Look at this. You think that was a coincidence? This is a street layout of Washington, D.C. Do you think that was coincidental? Most people think the street layout of Washington is not what some claim because of the missing of a leg. You see, right here, this part right here, on another picture of this diagram, the pentagon, a pentagram, this part is missing. And there was discrepancies because of that. And this is what some officials assumed, that because that leg was missing, then this theory of that Washington is the bed of demonic spirits, that it couldn't be so, because they believed that that pentagram had to be complete, not missing a leg. But check this out. I further dug into that, and I found that the pentagram with the missing leg is more powerful than the pentagram with the leg. Now, this picture is showing all the lines connected, but the actual diagram from a above skyline shot, this part right here is missing. All right. So, like I said, most people think the street layout of Washington is not what some claim because of the missing of a leg. However, if you do a deeper research on the pentagram with the missing leg, oh, look at that typo. The piece with the missing leg, you will discover that the missing leg pentagram is actually way more powerful than the one with all connections. Y'all, this is what's happening today. This is what the inauguration is all about. How many of you saw this? Remember the lightning strike in Washington on the day. Now, I don't know what was going on in Washington when this all happened, but my guess is it was something very dark. Because look at this. And this is the only place where lightning struck. Just look at that. The dome of Isis. Lightning struck repeatedly. Look at this. The monument, the dome of Isis. Look at this. Y'all, this is no coincidence. Something dark came through or responded to somebody or somebodies. Now, when we saw this, those of us that did see it, I saw it. Well, it was on a news broadcast where I saw it. Something was going on, and it was not normal. This is supernatural. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think. Somebody or somebodies in these buildings were doing a ritual. And they called on somebody to show up or respond, and the lightning was the response. Y'all take a good look at the buildings that was hit. Now, I added a few things in here to kind of I don't know, broaden the understanding of what I'm trying to show. Donald Trump supporters on social media speculated over whether a divine message, this is concerning this, y'all. What I'm reading right now is concerning that. Whether it was a divine message was being sent after lightning strikes reportedly hit the U.S. Capitol building and the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. and the One World Trade Center. That's this building right here, y'all. That's this building right here. And notice how significant it hit the dome of Isis, the monument of Osiris, and the One World Trade Center. Why just those three? These are things you got to pay attention to, because these things are not normal. They are supernatural, and they are happening right in our face. This happened on New Year's Eve. That sounds pretty significant to me. Of course, that's not our new year. We know our new year don't start in January. So this applies directly to them. They were gathered, thousands, in New York's Times Square for the iconic ball drop, despite heavy rain being forecast. They didn't care. They wasn't going to miss that. Now, why does it matter? The speculation takes place against the backdrop of a febrile political mood in the United States, with President-elect Donald Trump due to be inaugurated for the second time in January on the 20th day. All of this, y'all, is connected. We are going to have to learn how to stop looking in the physical and start learning how to see in the spirit. If you learn how to see in the spirit, you will catch this. It won't make it past you. You'll see it. Not necessarily understand it, but you will see it. You may figure it out later, but the point that's important is you need to see it. Because if you don't see it, most of us is, if I don't see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, it don't exist. But let me tell you something. Physical eyes cannot see spiritual. All right? Remember that. So, My whole point, and I had a lot more, y'all. I reduced it down to what we just showed. Let's see, what is this? During the 2024 presidential election campaign, Trump promised radical change if returned to the White House, including the mass deportation of illegal migrants, allowing companies to drill for fossil fuels, and an end to the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war. I don't know, y'all. But what I do know is the things that I've been seeing in my visions here lately. Some of them I'm not able to explain right now, but I know it's going to come, are true. Now, let me be honest with you. My first reaction was, I'm seeing things, I'm imagining things, I'm tripping. But when I looked at this, I realized, no, I'm not tripping. I see it. And I want you guys to see this. The governing people on this planet, and I'm using the term people loosely because they're not people, are bringing entities through portals. They're creating rifts. The Whore of Babylon gave birth in 1946 in the desert of Los Alamos. Or Los Lomos, I can't remember what that is. And we didn't notice. But now here's what we did notice. All the activity, extracurricular activities in the sky, in the heavens. See, they suddenly appeared. I mean, not like ever before. I mean, things like they said they were drones or orbs. But either way, this has never happened before. Then right after that, right after these so-called orbs or drones, came this fog. A fog that you could smell, would smell like sulfur, and you could taste. And when you shine a light on it, it looked like big particles of shredded paper. All right? There's never been anything like that. Listen, y'all. Get your spiritual life together. Get it together now. Because you are just on the verge, right on the very edge of seeing a lot more unnatural activity. You are going to see things in the sky or the heavens that are going to scare the living hell out of you. You have heard of Project Bluebeam. Listen, if you don't have yourself together, you will be fooled. Project Bluebeam, people that are claiming they see two suns or two moons or two whatever in the heavens. Let me tell you something. That was prophesied many, many, many years ago. But it's not a natural phenomenon. This is Project Bluebeam. And those people that are witnessing these unnatural events are actually, in a way, unknowingly buying into them, thinking that it's a sign from our Creator. Now, our Creator is allowing these things to happen for His particular plan, but this is being done by the adversary. These images you see in the sky, they're being created. You're going to see all the Christians, they're going to see Jesus. They're going to see Jesus that is projected to them through Project Bluebeam. They are now exposing that they have the ability to control the minds of people from a distance. Now I believe that will only work on those who don't believe, those who mock the Creator or have their own beliefs. Now I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Because the scripture clearly says that only a few will make it. And that there are many people on the planet now with eyes wide shut and ears locked and closed. They can't see and they can't hear. So I'm going to end this here, but I will be back. I'm still digging into this, and it is a headache because this is crazy, y'all. This is crazy. But with that being said, people, much love and peace to each and every one of you, and I could care less about what people say about me. I know what's going on. Shalom.